It's head coach and general manager of Valour FC, Phillip Dos Santos. How's 2023 treating you out of the gate, Phillip? Thanks for joining us here on our first episode of the new year.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's been good. Just getting back full steam in the office now with the staff. So we're looking forward to 2023.
This is the first time I've seen Oliver the new year. He's looking younger and more energetic. You're like Benjamin Button, Ollie. You're going backwards in time.
Yeah, I'll take it if you say so, but it doesn't feel like it.
We were just mentioning before we came on air, things have been far too quiet when it comes to this Canadian Premier League. So it's time to start ramping it back up. And all of a sudden, these signings are starting to trickle in from all of the clubs, and players have moved abroad as well. From your perspective, Phillip, how busy is this time of year? Is this the time of the year where you as a general manager start ratcheting things up and really starting to put your plan into implementation stage?
Well, I think the plan needs to be put in place well before. The recruitment process is important, but you don't start looking at players just randomly. You need to be in or make sure that you're looking at the right profile based on the idea that you have for the team. And I think that starts very early, sometimes even in season. So. Things have been busy for us. I think that we have a clear idea of what we want to be and what we want this team to look like. I look at the lifeline of CPL teams and players exiting for multiple reasons and the turnover in rosters. So the work needs to be done early. You can't wait until this time to start doing it. You need to have a clear idea of what you want and start building the team and start adding pieces that will get you closer to what you think will bring success to the team.
Well, and I think it's fair to say Valour, as much as anyone, Phil, it's going to be a massive off-season when you look at the outgoing players that you guys have. Obviously, it seems like you've made the decision to turn over a new leaf and kind of build a new squad here. How is that process going so far? And maybe what was the thinking behind deciding to have that overhaul after a season where you did go very close to the playoffs last season?
Yeah, well, Oliver, some players we moved because, it's the nature of the game. You look at players like Dyer, we wanted to keep. Right. We tried, but money talks in football. We look at a guy like Brett, same situation, getting in phases of their career where they have an opportunity to capitalize off a good season. So I look at that also as it's success, right? It's a success story. We look at a guy like Danny Ascanio was alone, Sirois, Rea. So yeah, some players we had to move from and we made the decision to do it. Others, it was just the nature of the business. And we just can't dwell on that. We have to start looking at options and opportunities to better the team. I wanted to add league experience and if possible, even, championship experience and players that had been in locker rooms where they've consistently been in playoffs. So for me, that was important. And just bring the right pieces according to what we felt the needs were. There's, of course, players we decided to move on from because, again, when you're so close, you tend to look only at what you need to change or add, maybe a piece here, a piece there. But sometimes it goes beyond that. Sometimes you just need to separate and somehow divorce from players that you care for and you learn to appreciate in 1.5 seasons or close to that. But you need to make sure you make the decisions that you believe are the best for the squad, and that's what we did here. And we took the opportunities that we had. I think that every year there's going to be decisions like these to be made.
You're right. Money talks in this industry, absolutely. But also players look for opportunity as well. What will benefit them in their career? Where can they have a chance to really shine? Yeah. And of course, you have your blueprint of the way that you like to see things play out. But what do you make of the market? Like in terms of the players that you're looking at in terms of potentially being a fit in the Canadian Premier League, and also players that may be interested now, seeing what the CPL is all about, and them having interest in potentially joining you as well.
Yeah, look, it's the way the contracts work with, they're not long terms, or you could get a 2-year here, and but that players that do well will the value goes up very fast, right? If they move, especially from one team in the league to the other, there's going to be multiple factors, and not always money factor to it. But now you look at leagues like the USL starting to look at the CPL as a very viable market, and some players going into these MLS Next Pro teams with a possibility of being given an MLS contract down the line, like Mo Farsi and even some European clubs. So they're starting to look at the CPL, and we lost 2 players to the USL that were free, and the truth is this: there's a Canadian dollar component versus the US dollar, but there's also the fact that USL teams are not as restricted with the cap space, and when we need to build thinking about these things. We need to look at, okay, we're going to sign this player with contract in year 1, year 2, and then what does it look go down the line with adding all the other players that you think you'll bring back in 2024 as well. And there's some you'll just need to open your hand and say, this guy needs to move on, because in my cap it won't work. And majority of the leagues don't work with a restricted cap space, and so these are all things we need to look at. But it's part of the job, and it's how can we stay competitive? How can teams stay competitive and project what tomorrow could look like, and make sure that we retain the players that we think are non-negotiable for us until we can. There's always going to be the window where they're now free and ready to go, and there your decision becomes easy. It's you need to look for the next one.
It's a really long off season, obviously, for you and all the Canadian Premier League coaches, Phil. We know the reasons for that. Us too as well. Yeah, we'd all love to see some games back. We know the reasons for that and the challenges that exist in this country, but what difficulties does that present you with the team being, away for so long, and how do you kind of make the best, I guess, of the large amount of time that you do have here before the preseason starts?
Well, yeah, that's it is an issue. I think there's an anxiety that kicks in for us as a staff. It's hard too, but one, because you have too much time to think about the team and building the team, and how. But also it's an opportunity for us. We watch a lot of games. We try to stay connected with what the game and how it's evolving. And we had the World Cup to look at, and there was so much football in the last month or so. But for players, it's hard because, they need to be in a market where they could get together with other league clubs, or even some players that are in town playing in other leagues, but that are also in an off season. But if you're in a market that doesn't have a lot of players and or training opportunity in the winter, it makes it very difficult for them. Then comes the reality. You look at a lot of these injuries coming into preseason or when you kick off the season. A lot of them are muscular or soft tissue injuries. And do I believe that some of it is related to an extensive and too long of an off season, and then a spike that happens too fast coming into preseason? I think there's some truth to that. So yeah, I think the off season is long, but how do you rectify that? How do you change that in a country where the weather doesn't help you? Yeah. At least not in every market. It's a tough one. So I don't think there's an immediate solution to it, but I think it's hard on the players. They need to stay as fit as they can and try to find opportunities, not just to be in a gym, but also to be on the ball. And you know how expensive indoor facilities are too. So I think everyone needs to be very creative here, us as a club, but also the players when they're on their own time.
I'm hearing CPL Indoor League somewhere. It's ringing around my head. Big Phil Dos Santos joining us here on One Soccer Today. I'm Wheeler. He's Platt. You've expertly used the loan market to improve your side and as well as improve players as well. Sirwa, Rea, both players look to be going back to CF Montreal. When do you deem those players, or when did they deem themselves ready to make that next step up to MLS? And how can you continue to use that kind of pathway based upon the success that players have had at the club using the loan as a way to kind of elevate and advance their careers?
Look, that's an interesting one, because I think that, for example, Valour, we always relied on a couple loans. And I think that because of the landscape, it's changing a bit with the MLS Next Pro now happening, and teams holding on to younger players for a longer period because they're having this playing opportunity. I see loans as a Christmas present. You can't build your roster counting on them. You need to build your roster waiting to see how things shape up, and then if there's a loan opportunity that comes up, you assess if it's good for you or not. And it needs to serve the purpose also of the player. In our case, it was always good. You had James Pantemis here. You had Jonathan Sirwa. You had Sean Rea. All players that did 2 years. Now they came in and they were good for the league. They were good for the club. They had moments where they dominated. And I think that's a sign that, you know what, maybe they're ready for the next level. And that's an assessment that teams need to make. I think both Rea and Joe grew a lot in the past 2 seasons, and they put themselves in a situation where now possibly they could be seen. And, comes a point for the MLS teams where they need to say, okay, they've done well there. Now let's see how they do here, and how much of an opportunity they could have by getting minutes in the MLS team. So good for them. I think there's still a path there. I just think that the landscape changes, and let's see where it goes. I don't think you'll see as many MLS loans in the future, because of the way the clubs are structured now, the reserve league, and I think you'll still see a few, but it's getting harder and harder.
It's good for I always subscribe to this, Phil. It's good for those players to get out of their element, though, right? There's something to be said about coming to an established league, playing with more experienced players, and testing yourself in a different environment. So with that being said, whether it's loan or otherwise, how ambitious are you going to be in this offseason? Like we talk about how long it is. Everyone's just looking up at Forge right now saying, how do we close the gap? So how do you close that gap?
You said it all. I think you need to look at the champions. You need to look at the teams that have done well year after year and say, okay, when you're recruiting, how close can we get? Not only with players, but everything that surrounds the team, because winning is difficult on its own. You need to recruit well. You need to make sure that every component, everything that affects performance is spot on. And you know what? We've been working very hard to make sure that the gap is closed. But again, when you're close the way we've been, and there's a point last season where we felt we were in. We felt that going into the last 5 games, and I think that might have been an issue for us, because now suddenly not only are you in a playoff spot, but we're 2-3 points away from first place, and then kicks in the tyranny of the urgent, where you start looking at 4 or 5 games ahead, and not so much at the next game and the next game. And I think that happened for us a little bit. So we're making sure that we're bringing also the right characters into the team, making sure that we learn with past mistakes, making sure that everything that drives performance is addressed in the club. I think a lot has to do with personnel, but also with the daily environment that the players are going to find here. So, I agree with you that we need to look what's above us, but again, more than that, for me, it's you can't start comparing yourself with others. You have to know what you want to be about and set your standards, structure yourself to meet those standards, and work and make sure that you're the best you can be every day.
Phil, but before we let you go, you mentioned watching the World Cup, and I'm sure we could pick your brain on what happened in that tournament for about 2 hours here. But I'll start with Canada, I guess. What was the big kind of takeaway for you from Canada's performance in the group stage? Not the results we wanted, but some interesting elements in terms of performance there.
Yeah, very, very much. I think that's where you have to look back and say, at the end of the day, 2 teams of that group ended up going into the final stages of the competition. So they had a very tough group. I think that a lot of people somehow saw Belgium and Croatia as being the 2 teams at the top there. But, you look at all, and going back to the category of players, because I know emphasis is given to the category of players if they're in a tier 1, tier 2. You look at Morocco, they're all up there, right? They're all playing for big clubs, good clubs. So it was a tough group. It was a tough challenge for Canada. I think that they were in the game in every single game, and it's the cutting edge and games that they needed to have it, like that Belgium game. If you get a win there, it just changes the dynamic of things and the nature of things. So I think we have to be proud of them. But it's a game of margins. It's so tight at that level, and you don't score one and then you go out and concede a goal, and it's just so small margins, and it didn't happen for Canada, but I think they're in the right track. I think that there's something to look forward to for the future competitions they'll be playing in.
The billion-dollar question is, how does this country take full advantage of the platform? Like, speaking to the players and people around, like more signatures, more pictures, more selfie, like they're known now, right? So how does Canadian soccer take advantage of all of this?
It's hard to answer that question, Gareth. I think that we need to keep getting traction, keep going with all the platforms that we have to publicize or advertise the game. And I think that there was a lot happening in a time where normally, you have a sport that is in Canada seen as more of a summer sport, and it was actually good to see it in November for us, because it's a time that normally is dead when it comes to football. So just gives you an extra couple months of football in the face of everyone. And I don't have the answer for you. I think that we just need to keep doing our jobs and pushing in every market. Either you're a CPL team, an MLS team, every platform that we have to showcase the game and to put it out there and put the higher standards in the face of young players. And I think we just need to keep pushing. There's a multiple factors to it, and I think that we're in the right track. I arrived in Canada in 2005, and I saw a crazy growth. So again, we tend to look at where we are today and never be satisfied. But if you look 10 years past and you look back a bit, you say the progress was big. So if we have another jump in the next 10 years, it means we'll be in a good place. So we just keep pushing.
Well said. With individuals like you on the ground doing the hard work, we're moving in the right direction. We're
and you guys too, eh? You guys too.
Please.
Yeah.
We're just the furniture around the apartment.
You need the furniture.
Look, 2022, a year your brother Mark came away with an MLS Cup. Perhaps 2023 North Star Shield, Phillip Dos Santos winner, has a decent ring to it.
The prophet.
Once in a while. Thank you so much for doing this. Looking forward to more conversations going forward. Best of luck to you in acquiring the players that you need to in order to close that gap. And shout out to all the great fans in Winnipeg as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Have a good one.